Ashoka's Dhamma, causes per policy of Dhamma. The policy was nurtured in the mind of Ashoka, and through it he attempted to resolve some of the tensions within the society. Ashoka's private beliefs and his own perceptions of how he should respond to the problems of his empire were responsible for the formulation of the policy of Dhamma. The immediate social environment in which Ashoka grew up influenced him in the later years of his life. The Mauryan kings are known to have adopted an ecclesiastical outlook. Chandragupta took recourse to Jainism in his later years, and Bindusara favored the Ajivakas. Ashoka himself adopted Buddhism in his personal life, though he never imposed Buddhism on his subjects. By the time Ashoka ascended the throne, the Mauryan imperial system had become a complex phenomenon and encompassed various cultures, beliefs, and social and political patterns. Ashoka had to either maintain the structure by force, which would incur tremendous expenses, or to define a set of social norms which would be acceptable to all, cultivating across all social practices and religious beliefs. Ashoka was aware of the tensions with the rise of heterodox sects like Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivakism they had generated in society. They were also opposed to the domination of the Brahmanas in some way or the other and had a growing number of supporters. But the Brahmanas continued to have strong hold mutual trust in a situation such as this. Like some measure of hostility was inevitable. It was essential to bring a climate of harmony and peace. There were obviously many areas within the empire where neither Brahmanical system nor the major heterodox sects prevailed. Ashoka himself refers to the country of the Yavanas, where neither Brahmanical nor Brahmanical culture was in vogue. Besides, there were many tribal areas in the empire where people were obviously not familiar either with the Brahmanical or heterodox ideas. To make the empire survive and to bring some measure of cohesion within the empire in the midst of such diversity, it was essential that there should be some common pattern of behavior and common approach to the problems of society. The complexity of the state system demanded an imaginative policy from the emperor, which required minimal use of force in such a large empire having diverse forms of economy and religions. It could not have been controlled by any army alone. A more feasible alternative was the propagation of a policy that would work at an ideological level and reach out to all sections of the society. An estimate of King Ashoka. Ashoka was the greatest of kings, surpassing Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar and other renowned emperors of the world. According to H.G. Wells, a mist of tens and thousands of names of monarchs that crowd the columns of history, the name of Ashoka shines and shines almost alone a star. Ashoka's Dhamma is so universal that it appeals to humanity even today. He was an example in history for his benevolent administration and also for following the policy of non-aggression even after his victory in the war. His central ideal was to promise the welfare of humanity. Later Mauryas in Mauryan Empire. Ashoka's death in 232 BC was followed by the division of the Mauryan Empire into two parts, western and eastern. The western part was ruled by Kunala, son of Ashoka, and the eastern part by Dasharatha, one of the grandsons of Ashoka. Due to Bactrian invasions, the western part of the empire collapsed. The eastern part was intact under Samprati, successor of Dasharatha. The last Mauryan king was Brihatradha, who was assassinated by Pushyamitra Sangha. Foreign relations of Mauryan Empire. The Ashokan inscriptions are one of the main sources in this regard which mention contemporary rulers in other parts of the world. The foreign relations of the Mauryas can be divided into distinct phases: the initial phase of expansion and the later phase of consolidation. The initial phase was marked by an aggressive foreign policy and a policy of securing trade routes and subjugating the Greek settlements in the north and northwest regions. The incorporation of central India gave them control over Dakshinapadha and brought them into the peninsula. The initial phase of expansion came to an end after the Kalinga War. During the second phase, the emphasis shifted to consolidation and having friendly relations with immediate neighbors and also with far off countries. Ashoka was the main proponent of such a policy and he was probably influenced by diplomatic requirements, geographical proximity, and trade needs. In Rock Edict 13, Ashoka has referred to 5 contemporary rulers: Antiochus II of Syria, Turnmaya, Ptolemy II, Philadelphus of Egypt, Antigonus of Macedonia, Magas of Cyrene, Alexander of Epirus. The reference to these rulers in this context of Dhamma Vijata, victory by Dhamma, indicating that missions were sent to these rulers with the message of Dhamma. These missions actually established friendly contact, for the edict mentions that the greatest victory, that is, victory by Dhamma, had been achieved in these regions. The relations of the Mauryas with the powers in the south have been cordial. No Ashokan inscriptions have been discovered so far in the regions ruled by the Cholas, Pandyas, Keralaputras, and Satyaputras, the major independent powers in the south. Rock Edict 13 mentions about Dhamma Vijaya in these regions as well. Sri Lanka remained another friendly neighbor again due to the policy of Dhamma. Mauryan administration in the Mauryan Empire. Central administration. Under the Mauryan Empire, for the first time in India, attained political unity and administrative uniformity. After establishing the empire, the Mauryas organized a very elaborate system of administration. Megasthenes has left detailed accounts of the system of government under Chandragupta. His account can be supplemented by the Kautilya. With the increase in the size of administrative needs of the state from a small tribal state to a territorial empire, there was corresponding increase in the powers of the king. The king emerged as the supreme head of the state military, judicial, executive, and legislative functions. The concept of law as the legal expression of socio-economic and political rules, customs was made subordinate to the concept of royal decree, having an independent validity of its own. The existing theories on statecraft and kingship were implemented by Chandragupta into a pattern of highly centralized administration for the vast empire. The other 6 elements of state, as mentioned in the Ardhashastra of Kautilya, are Amatya or bureaucracy, Anapada or territory, Durga or the fortified capital, Kosha or the treasury, Danda or the coercive machinery, and Mitra or the allied powers. The necessity to share the king's authority was some kind of check on him. Kautilya says that the king shall employ minister called as Mantrin and also a council of ministers called as Mantri Parishad. He says all kinds of administrative measures are presided by deliberations in a well-formed council. Megasthenes also says that the king was assisted by a council whose members were noted for wisdom. The king appointed a council of ministers called Mantri Parishad. There were various other officials who helped him perform his duties. These officials were known as Amatyas, Mahamatras, and Adhyakshas. Ardhashastra gives a list of 27 Adhyakshas or superintendents who were responsible for running various economic departments like agriculture, mining, weaving, trade, etc. Important officials in Mauryan central administration. Officials are Mantrin, who functions as Chief Minister, official Mantri Parishad Adhyaksha, who functions as Head of Council of Ministers, official Purohita, who functions as Chief Priest, officials like Senapati, who functions as Commander-in-Chief, Yuvaraja as Crown Prince, Samaharta as Revenue Collector, Vyabharika Chief Judge, Shulkadhyaksha officer in charge of royal income, Prashasti prison head, Samnidhata treasurer and keeper of stores, Nayaka city security head, Karmantika as head of industries and factories, Dandapala as head of police, Durgapala as head of food grains department, Rajukas as land measurer, Pradeshika as district administrator, Akaradhyaksha as mining officer, Swarnadhyaksha as officer of gold department, Kunyadhyaksha as officer of forest, Pattanadhyaksha as officer of ports, etc. Revenue Department. Samharta, the chief of the revenue department, was in charge of the collection of all revenues from all types of sources of the empire. The revenues came from land, irrigation, customs, shop, tax, ferry tax, forests, mine and pastures, license fee from craftsmen and fines collected in the law courts. The land revenue was normally fixed as 1/6 of the produce. The main items of expenditure of the state were related to king and his household: army, government, servants, public works, poor relief, religion, etc. Land revenues were known as Sita from crown lands and Bhaga from the cultivators. Other non-rural taxes were Pindikara, Hiranya, Bali and Pranaya. Army of the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan army was well organized and it was under the control of Senapati. According to Greek author Pliny, the Mauryan army consisted of 6 lakh infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 elephants and 8,000 chariots. The salary were paid in cash. It seems that the 6 wings of the armed forces, the army, the cavalry, the elephants, the chariots, the navy and the transport were each assigned to the care of separate committee. Each wing was under the control of Adhyakshas or superintendents. Meghasthenes mentions 6 boards of 5 members, each to control the 6 wings of the